First impressions are the most important when it comes to convincing someone to play a specific game, and that is something I like to keep in mind when putting together one of these videos. That is why I should immediately state that the only reason I'm talking about this game is because of spite-fueled curiosity, and that I don't recommend it to anyone under any circumstance. I did not enjoy any of the 40+ hours that I spent trying to reach some sort of elusive turning point where I could tell you that Earthseeker is actually a misunderstood classic, but the deeper I went, the further I despised the game and its copious amounts of wasted potential. Whatever unique content that might be interesting to see here is spread to such a molecular level of thickness that I tricked myself into believing that the game had to be hiding some sort of grand secret behind all of its glaring flaws and insistence on working against the player itself. Consider for a moment how common it is the notion that some games totally get really good after you give them a few hours of your time. Like the retail cost wasn't enough price for the admission, now you gotta entertain the game before it might entertain you. To me, that's an entire load of cope if I ever heard one. If you cannot enjoy, much less appreciate every time life takes you to Twilight Town, then maybe you don't deserve entry to one certain kingdom, much less two. If you happen to actually enjoy Earthseeker, more power to you. Nothing of what I'm about to say over the course of this video should take that away from you. I just wish that I could hold the same circumstances that granted you such privilege, because in my case, I went in with zero expectations and still managed to come out disappointed. If you're watching this, it means that I managed to build up enough resentment to power me through an entire video project, and let me tell you, on today's economy, that ain't exactly cheap. So that should give you an idea of how salty I was, am, and will be for the foreseeable future every time I think of Earthseeker. But for reasons that make perfect sense in retrospective, there doesn't seem to exist any sort of coverage for this game, and even less outside the only region it was released in. While sales numbers are rarely on my array of interests, I should note how Earthseeker has been reported to sell less than 20,000 copies in its short lifetime, which certainly explains how Xseed Games went from definitely interested to not actively looking when asked to comment about the possible release on the West. Since its official release on 2011, there were several different attempts at an English fan translation, but it took until 2020 for Brand Newman to be the one brave enough to actually complete the project from start to finish. While you can now play Earthseeker in a more accessible language, it's important to point out how it's explicitly stated on the patch notes that the native language of the translator is neither English or Japanese, which together with usual text size limitations make for a challenging playthrough where it's hard to not keep tripping over the generous amount of stilted sentences. In any case, the effort is appreciated, at least to some extent. So, what is the deal with Earthseeker? In a not-so-distant future, planet Earth suffers some kind of major catastrophe, so we collectively decide to catapult the entire country of France into space, because honestly, there's only so much wine and cheese that can excuse those damn frogs. No. Actually, a black hole was approaching the planet, so we all packed our bags and went looking for another place to live. Unfortunately, when entering a certain star system, a burst of gamma rays ends up killing the entire human race on board of all of the spaceships. Despite the unforeseen setback, the mother computer manages to find a sufficiently similar planet to Earth, but during the landing sequence, the foreign materials from Earth cause an adverse reaction with the planet's atmosphere, sending the entire fleet to crash onto the surface. After a few centuries, the mother computer was able to terraform the planet, despite a few problems caused by the crash landing, such as complications in replicating flora and fauna using the saved DNA from Earth, resulting in some pretty messed up life forms. Yet the biggest problem was the inability to bring back the male side of mankind, so for the time being, humanity had no other choice than to become a matriarchy depending on cloning for survival. Now currently guided by Elder Rosa, the first female born on Pangea hundreds of years ago, she agrees to the request from a girl named Farah to become a Seeker, in order to help with the recovery of the heritage of mankind, as the young girl has become interested about the past of her ancestors. As the broken remnants of the spaceships became part of the planet's landscape during the terraforming process, every treasure and relic held inside was lost as time went by. As those were the last fragments remaining from the cradle of humanity, they hold priceless historic value and are important to the recovery of mankind, so it's your job to retrieve as many as you can while braving the hostile nature of Pangea's wildlife. On paper, this is a great concept. Not only you get to partake in the usual addictive nature of hunting monsters to upgrade yourself, but you also get to collect all of these famous pieces of human history and maybe learn a thing or two along the way. It might sound ridiculous, but consider how many people have learned about the history of the world through games such as Age of Empires and Civilization. Around the release date of Earthseeker, at least 2 different companion manga were serialized on Famitsu, both to promote the game and to give further context for the events leading up to the game. But as my luck would have it, I couldn't get my hands on either of them. The only thing I could find was a collection of short gag comics that were published on the official website, which still managed to do more for the development of the protagonist than the entire game ever does. While Farah can take care of herself pretty well, Rosa asks her to pay a visit to the nearby Guardian village, which is where an entire race of marketable mascots reside. They are somehow connected to planet Earth, so they are conveniently interested in helping with the entire heritage business. Although, to really get their attention, you must first offer them some booze. With a full party, you are now free to head to the Heritage Information Room, where you can choose which quests to pursue before departing to their corresponding area. For the moment, ignore the familiar looking map. It's high time I start complaining. The big unique feature of Earthseeker is what they call the time-stop battle system, which with a quick glance might leave you confused as to what's different here from games like Xenoblade Chronicles or even Final Fantasy XII. First of all, those are better games. And second, you might think this is turn-based, when it's really just an awkward middle stop from a simple, real-time action-based system. But enough with the obtuse string of words, here's a practical explanation. To engage in combat, you must first lock on to a monster and enter its range of attack, denoted by the reticle turning red. You are then able to stop time, where you can choose your string of attacks, with each skill costing a different amount of action cartridges. And after attacking, you then must wait for the cartridges to recharge. Doesn't seem that bad, right? Absolutely fucking wrong. Where do I even begin with this? There are so many wrong things here that I don't even know how to currently pick this apart. Look, they are not fooling anyone here. This is clearly Monster Hunter. The setting and pacing might even make you think of Phantasy Star Online, but there is no denying it. The way the map is divided, chasing after fleeing monsters through different areas, the tribal race of creatures that can help you on your quest, and the importance of drawing your weapon as an important step in the flow of the combat. Might as well start with exactly that. The drawing of your weapon, and now a seemingly superficial thing, ends up ruining the old combat system. Let me explain this with the most basic attack loop you can do. So, you lock on into a monster and then attack, and you successfully hit all of your attacks. First of all, you are now forced to just stand there doing nothing, waiting for the action cartridges to recharge. But what is truly baffling is that when you want to execute the next string of attacks, you must draw your weapon yet again. Every single fucking time! I'm in the middle of a battle, fighting for my life, and this bitch has the audacity to shove the sword back in her ass like, "The fuck are you doing?" It's not like she isn't capable of running with the weapon out, because when you're too far away, you can still kinda control her path towards the monster, which is the other half of the problem. You know how in games the attack animations are usually counted in frames instead of seconds. This is important because basic attacks should be quick, so when you get more moves later on, you can instantly know how powerful they are, not because of any number associated with it, but by the emphasis on how much longer it takes than normal. You should also be able to have a window of time during parts of an attack where you can cancel out of it, either to continue the chain of attack or to defend yourself if it's getting too risky. In here, as soon as the attack animation starts, that is it. Pray that the enemy doesn't attack you, because you're not getting out of this one anytime soon.
I love it.
I am not trying to hit a motherfucker with the Arc of Might. This is literally the first melee attack that you have, and this thing takes 5 whole seconds. Even better is if the enemy slaps you out of the attack. Not only you are forced to watch a full-length movie of yourself hitting dirt, but your action cartridges still get used, so now you must wait even more to enter back in the queue to attempt to hit it again. Also, I'm not even going to fact check this, but I'm pretty damn sure that more than half of the monsters are the type that can fly, and good luck dealing with that if you brought a weapon that doesn't have a skill that can reach them. Okay, so attacking with your character sucks. But what about the Guardians then? They are basically mages which can equip 2 different types of magic, and depending on the total number of similar types in the party, they can, in theory, cast bigger and better spells. Well, that doesn't seem so bad. Wrong! This only adds to the problem because casting magic also uses cartridge slots, so you're just sacrificing more opportunities to deal good damage. In theory, you are supposed to chain your attacks together with the Guardians, but honestly, it would be more efficient to throw peanuts at the monster until it develops some sort of allergy, or wait for it until it dies of old age. The crux of the problem is the progression system, where in the beginning, their magic barely does any damage, and the only way to level up is by constant use. Certainly, you can see the problem right away. If the damage sucks from the beginning, by the point where the enemies are stronger, your current magic is so far behind that it's basically useless, and the progression balance is so bad that it takes away any incentive to improve it instead of just swinging your weapon around. That is, if your weapon is even decently upgraded, because sometimes you risk it and accept a quest that is ranked slightly higher than normal, and after 10 minutes of smashing this stupid thing, you start to question if you are even doing any damage at all, because this is trying to be Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter doesn't have any kind of health bars. You know what Monster Hunter had since the beginning? Signs that the monster was getting weaker, and better gameplay. You might think that you could just stay there dragging your feet till the quest was done, because there is no time limit. But the problem is that there is in fact a time limit. They just call it a virus counter, because it's something that gradually increases, and when it gets to 100%, you pass out. Adding to the problem is how goddamn awful the dodge is, as either I was lucky enough that in 40 hours, I never managed to find one single frame of invisibility in its entire animation, or it really doesn't have any. And look at that distance! What am I supposed to do with this? You can equip gems to your weapon, which gives more stats or special skills, and one of them lets you dodge with this different jump, which, hey, that's a good distance. But guess what? It completely replaces the normal dodge, so when you try to rely on muscle memory, instead of rolling forward, you'll be sent backwards, right into an enemy attack, because this one doesn't know the concept of iframes either. Cutting a long story short, the problem is that they couldn't decide in which direction to settle, so you got this awful middle point where he wants to be a real-time action game, but using the features of a turn-based RPG. And do you wanna know something fucked up? After dragging my ass down to the final area, I was so fed up with the game that I just gave myself the best weapon to keep myself from losing my mind, and the game was still fucking unbearable. Congratulations on the balance for this single-player game, I guess. God forbid I actually have fun at any point, cause getting that weapon legitimately would send me into a coma so hard that I would instantly wake up from the impact. Okay, so the combat is awful. Is there anything good outside of it? Of course there isn't! Even the process of getting into it is an hassle of in itself. Take a look at the map. This is the first area, and it looks relatively simple. When you put it in comparison to the first map of the original Monster Hunter, you can see what they are going for. The hardware still didn't allow a complete seamless map, so they divided it into contained areas, so you have to go through a loading screen to get to a different area. Now, imagine if they made all of these parts actually separate areas that you had to traverse. Because that's exactly what they did for Earthseeker. These sections barely contain anything that couldn't be put into proper designed areas. And now if you want to change locations, not only you have to go through different loading screens, but you actually have to walk all the way through them, which is certainly not a good thing when you consider the moving speed. Can you even fathom how many of my 40 hours with this was just walking through empty corridors? Because they certainly did, as there are specific areas where they decided to put a transition fade to teleport you instantly across. What's even the point then? All of these are just copy-pasted corridors, so if you took them out, you still had 7 unique areas. But of course, that's also wrong. Cause these two are just glorified loading cutscenes. In the 50 available quests, you only fight here like 2 or 3 times, and it's not even unique monsters. So in reality, you only have 5 unique areas, and this is something that persists on all of the 4 maps that the game has. This problem only gets worse as each quest has certain paths blocked off, either permanently or locked behind items that you must find on your own. Now something that should take you from here to there, now as you go all the way around, while having to kill every single monster in your path, because they never tell you which ones are holding the items you need to unlock the doors. Honestly, there wasn't anywhere I could turn to where I wasn't complaining the entire time. Every quest had me to the point of wanting to quit, but I had to know what was at the end of it all. Trying to be as distinctive from Monster Hunter as possible, this game tries to have a deeper background from the classic kill the big lizard to make a bigger weapon to kill an even bigger lizard. The reason the Elder wanted you to collect heritage was because this was somehow causing a reaction to the clone of a man that they had in deep slumber, and everything was pointing to him waking up after the collection reached some sort of unknown milestone. Plus, the fact that someone took the time to translate this could only mean that there had to be something good somewhere, right? Progression is neatly divided between each special quest, where you're asked to retrieve a piece of the so-called Pangea canon, and while they tell you that this is something important, they never get into the details as to why. Of course, these quests are equally awful because you have to Pikmin your way through the map, and if something causes the Guardians to drop the piece even once, it's back to the start of the quest with your sorry ass. After you are done, you unlock a new area, new equipment and all that jazz, until you finally complete the 4 main maps. Right after you're done, Pangea gets attacked by space lasers, and the Elder reveals that this is the work of the Mother Computer, which is stationed on the heavens, instantly revealing how that is just a space station orbiting the planet. So without further delay, you get your ass inside of the Pangea cannon and get shot out of the planet to go solve the problem. After finding your way to the Mother Computer, it reveals that it came to the conclusion that this new planet is not suitable for mankind, because not one man has been born after all of this time. Then there is the failed fauna and flora, which is actually the root cause of the virus across all Pangea. So the solution the computer came up with was just to nuke the entire planet and move on to the next one. You then have to explain the situation to the supercomputer, so that it goes, "Oh shit, for real? My bad," and cancel the old nuke thing. Unfortunately, by coming over here, you brought the virus over to the space station, so the computer shifts into cleaning mode and is about to kill everything on board, so you must quickly escape. But not before having to deal with the most infuriating set of monsters that will certainly filter you the first time and then force you to redo the old quest from the beginning. After finally getting to the escape pods, that is it. That's the end. Credits roll, you get back to Pangaea, the Elder pats you in the back, and it's done. What about the old man thing? Well, you see, the worst is yet to come, and that is because of how the old heritage system works. You usually get one treasure for completing each quest, and there is a lot to be recovered. The problem is that not every treasure is collected like this, and every other way is a bigger pain in the ass. A good portion comes from repeating quests, which will give you one treasure from a pool of unique treasures to the specific map. Some can be found just laying around the map, but then there are the ones that require you to follow specific clues that will hopefully help you find the invisible switch that you'll add to it. Like this wasn't enough, sometimes they require you to use an item to activate something, and if you don't have the item on hand, you have to drag your ass all the way back to the hub, get the item, and then go all the way back. This wouldn't be such a common problem if the inventory system wasn't so goddamn awful. You have very limited space for everything you're holding, and just like Monster Hunter, there are several items that you'll want to bring with you on quests to make your life easier, which make the available space for loot even smaller. This inventory management has to be done manually, and you can either do it one by one, or you can deposit everything together. The problem here is that if you do that, then all the items you frequently use on quests also get stored. So now you have to get them back one by one and... oh, for fuck's sake, which ones were they? Where the hell did they go? Why is there no automatic storage sorting? Is this game fucking serious right now? Oh, and most of the heritage that you get is from this warehouse place you often get teleported to, which... you see this cutscene. Yeah, you cannot skip it. You are going to watch the same thing every single time. What about the man anyway? Is that motherfucker going to wake up or not? Oh yeah, he is. But doing that is what actually sent me over the edge. First of all, for him to wake up, you need to collect 12 complete categories of heritage. If you look at the museum, you can check how it's divided into distinct groups, and out of a total of 30, you need 12. Doesn't seem that bad, until you realize that actually making a conscious effort to only fill 12 specific categories is a fucking nightmare. Every time you get a new one, you just hope to get something from a category that is close to being done, only to find out that it belongs to one you didn't even start yet. Let's say that you finally managed to complete those 12 categories. Is the dude going to finally wake up? Well, yes and no. Of course you need something else. What, you thought this was going to be easy? Now you need 7 out of 9 parts of the Power Assist suit. Ai meu Deus. Yes, the game still has more ways to be obtuse. So, get this. Each part of this damn thing is hidden in the worst places of the map, and only on certain specific quests, and for some unfathomable reason, they only appear after you successfully complete them the first time. Okay, but here's the thing. If you happen to have a DSi, yeah, remember that? It was that awkward middle step between the DS and 3DS, where you could get these tiny digital games called DSiWare. This is relevant because they actually released one of those for Earthseeker, where you could play minigames to get items that you could then transfer to the main game. And instead of that whole goose chase, you could just get the pieces of the power suit like this. Hell, to my knowledge, the only way to get upgrade pieces of the suit is through this method, as the ones you find in the main game are literally the worst, making the game even harder. Finally, after all of this, the dude wakes up. And just like my Japanese pornographic animes, every woman gets activated by his presence, like some sort of sleeper agent whose secret mission is getting railed. Anyway, the problem now is that because he was just born, he can't use any of the dozen weapons you just grinded your balls off to get. And that's what the power suit is for. Oh, this looks fucking ridiculous. In the place of the weapons, the man uses the same system as the Guardians. You know, the same system that I explained how much it sucks. the one that took ages to level up, to be any useful. In case you want to deal with any of that by the 50-hour mark. God fucking damn it, this game. This game! In case the entire video wasn't enough of a clue, Earthseeker is goddamn awful, so don't even think of trying it out for yourself. And if all of that wasn't enough to put you off, I saved the best for last. On the final story quest, that is a final monster that you don't have to kill, but if you somehow have the time and patience to do it, it will drop a unique crystal. By taking it to the Elder, she will turn it into an item called the Artimaster, which by holding it in your inventory will cause the monsters to more easily drop rare items in exchange of making them stronger, like the combat wasn't monotonous enough. But the real plot twist in here is that when you're holding the Artimaster, you can change the battle mode into manual. You are telling me that you had a better combat system tucked away after you finish a bullshit challenge on the last story quest? No, they didn't. Surprising absolutely no one. Even like this, the combat fucking sucks. You are still waiting for the damn action cartridges to recharge. You are still pulling out your weapon for every input, and your dodge is still shit. I really should point out that this came out 1 year after Xenoblade Chronicles and 2 years after Monster Hunter Tri. Who was responsible for this fumble anyway? Funny enough, the developer, Craftsmeister, was formed by 2 former Capcom employees, with one of them being Noritaka Funamizu, who you'll never guess what he worked on before. Yup, Monster Hunter. Motherfucker, you had a hand on that, plus the insight of 2 entire sequels, and all you managed to come out from that experience was this? By this point, it's not even funny, but there were certainly a lot more that I can complain about. I just think that this was enough to get my point across. Anyway, my recommendation is to play anything else. The Nintendo Wii is a great system, so literally, go play anything else.
Suck.